This is the Hamilton family, or at least on this side of the family. Amen. Come on. I've asked them to come forward and just share a bit. My understanding of their account, that we started out our church at Cerritos High School. And at that time, we didn't have a church facility, but there was a tennis course right across from our auditorium where we had our services. And he was a good tennis player and played tennis, and I understand he didn't go to church much, at least not on a regular basis. And so he recognized me to get his daughter. She was coming up in a teenager, and he realized she needed God, okay? Even though he wasn't going a whole lot, but she needed God. I'm sure she wasn't bad, but I want to protect her and make sure she gets the good morals in my daughter, right? That's how a lot of folk come to church, because you know what? She's sprouting up. Boys are looking at her. Okay, are you following me? They come to Zoe, the whole family comes. They go on and grow in the things of God, become involved in our ministry. And that was back in probably the early 90s. Then she marries Jonathan, godly man. He has a godly heritage. I believe what your grandfather was a pastor? Grandfather, father and grandfather is a pastor. And so it's no accident when you start early. And what God says, your children and grandchildren. Just speak briefly about how you came and your commitment in getting your family involved in the church.
Well, as Pastor mentioned, every Sunday was tennis for me. And when Tiffany got to a certain age, my wife and I knew that she had to get into a church. And I told her to go out and find a church for my wife. She came back and said, yeah, there's one around the corner there that we can go to. And every Sunday, for 3 or 4 Sundays there, my daughter would always ask me to accompany them. And I always told her I had something else to do. But that something else, which was tennis, for whatever reason, Pastor, you didn't mention this, but the gentleman that I was playing with, that group, for whatever reason, they just disbanded.
Wow.
I no longer had an excuse not to come to church. So that following Sunday, I did join them and been part of Zoe ever since.
Wow.
I and my mom have been going to church. We started, we were at the Cerritos High School, and I didn't understand as a child why we couldn't go as a family, and it was something that was important to me as a child to have my father there as a representation, because we always did everything else together. So, obviously it was God that was putting that desire in my heart and allowing me to be that person. And there's been other instances in my father and I's life or experience where I've been able to, for whatever reason, speak to him and have him kind of appreciate my concern, my genuine concern. So there's, to this day, obviously, still a very strong relationship that my father and I had, but God used me to be a blessing to him, so I honor him.
Jonathan. Now, notice what she said, that she wanted her father to understand why why daddy don't go to church? Why daddy don't raise his hands and with everybody else? Why is daddy sitting down when doing worship service, people standing up? I mentioned earlier the influence of men is huge on the children, even the adult children. Jonathan, could you briefly share how did you happen to find this godly woman and why you selected a woman like her as opposed to some other woman?
Of course. As Pastor mentioned, my father and my grandfather are both pastors. I also have a couple of uncles who are pastors as well. So raised in the church, grew up in the church, strong in my relationship with Christ. Going off to college, I grew up in Fresno in the Central Valley. Going off to college in San Luis Obispo, main focus was school and education, obviously. But upon arriving at school, I noticed there are a lot of girls everywhere.
Well.
and parents not around, but growing up under that teaching, I was still looking for that in school. And so looking at different organizations on campus to become involved with, and in looking around and talking to people, came across a group of students that actually knew Tiffany. I didn't know her. I wasn't associated with her in any way, but someone else knew her, and they knew me, and they said, I know someone who I think would be a good match for you, in so many words. And so, they set it up unbeknownst to us. They invited Tiffany to an activity, and then someone else invited me to that same activity, and lo and behold, we met there. We started talking, got to know one another. I found out that she was very strong in her faith, and I was very strong in my faith, and she had been already attending church, and I was looking for a church to really settle down in, and just more talking, more hanging out with those same group of friends more, and eventually we decided to go out on our own and have a date, and really just hit it off. But it was that foundation of faith that I think brought us together. And God knows, Tiffany went to Cal Poly immediately out of high school. I took a couple of years. I went to community college and then went, but yet we still found each other. And that is nothing but God. And even now, Pastor, as you're talking about, teaching children and grandchildren, in our household, God is number one.
Come on, man.
And so as we lie down, as we rise up, as we send her off to school, especially, we had her in private, sorry to talk so long.
No, go ahead, please.
We had her in private school for, early years, and after a while, private school gets pretty expensive. So, but our hesitation was that public schools now aren't what they used to be.
Right.
As you're saying, Pastor, there's a lot going on in public schools, even in elementary schools, that you wouldn't think they would even mention or allow in elementary schools, but they do, and it's a state mandate that they discuss certain things at school. So we were very hesitant, but we have her in public school now. But we are not fearful. We are very much full of faith. We have taught her well. We continue to teach her. She knows a lot of things. She's a very smart young girl, and we have a 2-year-old in preschool this morning, and it's the same thing with her even now. We'll sit down at the table and we'll say, this is our daughter Chrisette, by the way, she's 6. We have a daughter Zahara who's 2, and we'll sit down at the table, and sometimes Chrisette will pray over the food, and now we're saying, Zahara, would you like to pray?
Come
and
on.
she'll close her eyes and clasp her hands, and amen. So we're trying to do.
Wow. And if you don't mind, what do you do as a profession, Jonathan?
Well, I went to school for architecture, and right now I'm taking my architectural exams. I actually just took my second exam this past Monday. Haven't gotten the results yet, but I know I did well. I have a few more tests to go, but I'm pushing forward in architecture.
All right.
And I just wanted to say one more thing, because I think it's important in establishing our relationship. Jonathan and I, in terms of our friends, because we have a very diverse group of friends, we've kind of always been the example. And not to something that we've tried to do, but he was a leader in InterVarsity for a good portion of his 6 years being on campus. He did a year of internship where he worked as a leader in leadership with InterVarsity Campus Crusade. And then I was involved in leadership. So he led Bible studies, I led Bible studies. So we were always kind of allowing God to use our relationship, and God was always the center. And we were virgins for the 6 years that we dated until we got married.
Come on.
We've known each other for 13
I love
years.
it.
So we have always had God be in the center, and to this day we have our friends who call us and say, I need prayer. I'm scared for this, or this loved one is sick, pray for me. So that's something that we have been able to be proud of, and he's my best friend. I love him, he loves me.
Amen.
I have taken that relationship that I have with my father, and now that same encouragement that I had from my father when I was younger, now I apply that to him, and I have that encouragement for him, and he builds me up too.
Wow, wow. Thank you. Thank you, thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you. Come on, Zoe.